Welcome back to the Big Red Pod, your home for all things HW sports and more. I'm your host, Jake Lancer, with my guys Dylan Graff and Tate Sheehy. We got a great episode for you today, but before we get into everything, let's just talk about these first couple weeks of school, guys. How's it gone, Dylan?
Man, hard to believe it's only been 3 weeks. I've had 2 quizzes and a test in calc already. It just feels like that workload, I'm starting to feel it even after 3 short weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Tate, how about you?
Right. Personally, it hasn't been too bad yet for me, but I think it's definitely going to start ramping up towards the end of this week. Jake and I were in the same dystopias and utopias English class, and we have a rhetorical analysis coming up this Friday.
I got that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely something that's on my mind, but, I'm sure we'll be able to tackle it and do well.
Yeah, Tate and I got pretty lucky. We're in a couple classes together, and I will say we've had some good times so far, but I got a feeling, a tingling in my toes that things are about to get sort of tough.
Right.
That always seems to be how it is at this school, man.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that more as these podcasts go on, just our day-to-day stuff. Want to keep the viewers in the loop. We're going to move on now, just chat a little bit about, we have a new album out. Olivia Rodrigo released Guts recently. The guys really forced me to listen to this thing, and I'm going to say, they changed me for the better. I'm into it. I like it. It was pretty good. Dylan, what are your thoughts on the album?
I was one of those guys just anxiously awaiting 9 p.m. last week. I was waiting, and I was trying to be one of the first people to listen to it. And I did have a math test the next day, but I was like, I got to hear this album. So I decided to listen to it, and I was blown away. I mean, I think, would I still put Sour above Guts? Yes, I probably would, honestly. And I think that might be a hot take to some people, but I think Sour was just such a phenomenal album. It's hard to top.
Right. So obviously it's hard to top Sour from 2021. Instant classic album. Songs like Deja Vu, Good For You. Those are still playing in my car every day. But like Guts has really grown on me. It's something that on the drive home from school, I'm listening. We got some really good songs in there. Personally, Vampire, that's been out for a while, but still one of the best songs on that album. I think a sleeper for me is Teenage Dream. Slow song, but it really has a nice mood, and it gets me really excited when I listen to it. So.
Yeah, you talk about those drives in the car. We had a little pre-production meeting today before shooting this podcast, driving over to lunch. Dylan was bumping it in the car. We were getting down to it. Just good times all around. Really good album, and, she's going on tour. We could see a Big Red Pod field trip to the Forum in Inglewood. You never know.
Don't count it out.
Let's get into some HW athletics now. We saw a great football victory against South Torrance High just last week on Friday. A tough game, but South was without their best player. Dylan, you were on the call with me. What do you think about that win?
I thought that was a very amazing win for the Wolverines, right? I think we saw a totally new offense. If you watch Coach's Corner, you heard about that a little bit in advance, but Aiden Greenfield obviously started at quarterback, and we just saw an electric performance from him, and great performances as well from Sam Christopher at running back, Aaron Milburn on the defensive side of the ball. Connor Bunnick had a bit of a breakout game at receiver even.
Yeah.
And, I think it was great for the Wolverines to have that win going into the bye, have some momentum going into the bye and be on, have some good vibes on the team as well.
Well, Dylan, that's a great segue into introducing our guest for today's pod, Lawrence School alumnus, all Del Rey League wide receiver, dual threat quarterback, nephew of Harvard Westlake basketball legend, Ed White Jr., and most importantly, a family man. Without further ado, we have to welcome to the pod, Aiden Greenfield.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate having me on.
Thank you for taking the time, Aiden. We're going to get into a lot of stuff today. We have some new segments created, a little mailbag session coming up soon, but just going to start with some basic questions. And I think what everyone wants to know is, you're the wide receiver one on this team for the first couple of weeks, and then you get thrown into a role where you have to be the quarterback. What was it like for you in the moment?
100%. I think there's multiple ways to look at it. I think ideally looking at it at the start of the season, I thought I was going to play receiver the whole year. Thought I was going to be a little bit smoother on the passing side of the game, and it was going to be similar to last year where I kind of built a connection with the quarterback and was able to establish my role in the offense. But, our team's a lot younger this year, and I think I quickly realized, and we all realized as a team and the coaching staff realized that, it's just not going to work the same as last year. And so I think moving to quarterback was it was definitely rocky and definitely a change. It's not my best position and not the position that I'm most used to, but the ball's in my hands every play. So I think that's the positive. Like I can make things happen. Whereas, in order to produce as a receiver, you got to have the ball in your hands and you got to get it through the quarterback and through the snap and just a lot more variables.
Yeah.
Right. So you're 4 games into the season. The team's seen some highs, some lows. What's your biggest takeaway moving forward?
Well, I think we're kind of turning a new page. We didn't score a lot of points in the first 3 games. We're not really focusing on that. I think our offense is just so different than it was in the previous 3 games. That I think there's a lot more energy around the team. We're a lot more excited, and there's a lot less stress on the defense. Obviously, we have really tough games coming up. Northview is a really legit team, and so is Pius. But no, we're excited for sure.
And last week we kind of saw you for the first time start at the quarterback position. You think after the bye, are we going to be seeing some more offensive plays than last week?
Like in terms of just different schemes and different types of plays?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think obviously I only threw the ball 7 times, which is honestly kind of pathetic, but we put up a lot of yardage, and that's what the game plan called for. I think as I develop and get more comfortable as a passer, that part of our offense will expand. It's already expanding. Like yesterday at practice, we ran a bunch of man-on-man routes, zone routes, one-on-ones. Northview has really physical corners that are really athletic, so we're trying to get Connor and Boaz and Owen ready for that.
You've got a couple offers now after the past couple of weeks. We got Carleton football and Kenyon. What's that whole field looking like for you? I know it's been an interesting process so far.
Right. No, I think it's cool for sure. Definitely smaller schools, but it's awesome to see some sort of validation, whatever that may be. And I think the nice thing about offers is once you get 1 or 2, they kind of start coming through. It's like kind of like a political game almost. Sometimes it's not about how good you are, but the people and the connection. So what happens, as Jake, with Twitter, as you get that one offer, then they start to come through because more coaches see them, there's more pressure on the coaches to offer in case you commit. And so obviously that's the hope. But yeah, no, it's cool for sure. I really appreciate it.
I want to talk about you personally for a sec. Your teammate Connor Bunnick, we're talking about pregame rituals right now.
Right.
Connor loves to eat a banana before the game.
Right.
Your friend JT Fetterman likes to have, in the cafeteria, they have these little little crackers, salami,
almost like
cheese.
A gourmet Lunchable.
Yeah, it's like a gourmet Lunchable, a little charcuterie
The
board.
Hillshires.
Good call,
Yes.
good call.
Yeah.
What's your pregame ritual? Is it food? Is it stretching? What is it?
It's not food. I really can't eat too much on game day. I'm pretty nervous before games usually. Definitely got to get stretching in because pretty tight generally and pretty injury prone. So I think that's big. Honestly, I don't have any crazy pregame rituals. It's mainly just stretching and listening to music. The music choice, I would say,
Just gotta ask. Yeah.
it's it's a little sketchy. We a little bit of pop in there for sure, a little bit of country, but I'm not really too much country before the game, but definitely some pop.
Is that a Bill Coleman influence there on the country?
It probably is, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah.
Hate to say it because of his ego, but
Well, I mean, for viewers who don't know, us 4, we're actually in a fantasy football league together. We saw Aiden's team in week 1. Actually,
talented.
team, but caught a loss. A bit unlucky, obviously, was playing
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill and the Cowboys defense. But and obviously also had Kelsey on the bench. What was the thought process drafting that team, and how do you expect to progress moving forward?
There wasn't much of a thought process. All of my picks kind of came to me. I felt like I got a couple of steals. I know London didn't produce much last week, but getting him in the 6th, 7th round was big. Henry in the
Sticking
2nd
with
round.
that. Sticking with that.
Absolutely.
Oh, we're going to stick with London. I mean, we might not start him this week because we have Zay Flowers. But no, the team is good. And we're not focused on the week 1 loss. We're trying to win championships over here at my team. So, yeah.
We got to sort of follow up on that. Let me paint the picture for all you viewers. We're sitting in the Coleman residence, Bill Coleman's backyard, all anxiously waiting for this draft to happen. Mr. Greenfield over here pulls up about 5 minutes late. He walks through the door, and behind him we see his brother Chasen.
That's right.
Everyone was a little outraged. How is this man getting outside help from his older brother who's a college graduate? Do you feel it's a little cheap that you had outside help?
I don't think so. If you look at the picks that I made, they were the obvious picks and they were the right picks. And I don't think, it's fantasy football. It's not an NFL draft. There's no way to predict the future. I appreciate his help, but I think I'm kind of steering our path for this league. So
Very fair.
yeah. And
I
you know,
respect that.
there's been multiple guys, you know, who have had a partner, Teddy and Addy. But
Okay.
nobody talks about that. Addy controls that team, but Teddy's in there. There's a couple others, you know. So
Do you feel that because you're the starting quarterback, people look at you a bit harder than they look at a guy like Addy or Teddy in the league?
you know, I don't know. Maybe that's up for you to decide.
Okay.
I like that.
Anyways, I want to move on here, Aiden. You know, during your time at Harvard Westlake, you've gotten injured a couple of times. You've built a relationship with your chiropractor, right? You know,
Dr. Lev Allen,
exactly.
not just a chiropractor.
Not just so that's exactly. We wanted to ask you. We know bits and pieces of your relationship with this guy and how he's helped you overcome injury. But can you just talk about the relationship you developed with him?
You know, it was a great relationship. You know, I think one thing that's pretty cool is I'm definitely pretty injury prone and get injured a lot, but I've never missed a Harvard Westlake football game, which I'm pretty proud of. And you know, a lot of that has to do with him. I think it's important, not necessarily who you're doing rehab with, but to get that rehab in general. And when it's a likable person, I think it makes it a lot easier to do all that busy work that doesn't seem like it's important, but it definitely is.
Yeah, we've seen you cracking other people's backs and taking the methods. You
100%.
crack Bill Coleman's back from time to time. You even cracked my back once or twice.
Life changing.
In physics. And I will say it was pretty life changing.
And you were hesitant.
You know, I was hesitant. You know, to get down on the ground and let you do that. It was a little. I was a little nervous, but. But you know what? I overcame my doubts, and I was pleasantly surprised. Where did you learn all those skills? Is it from the man himself?
It is from the man himself. Yeah, it's from Dr. Lev Allen. Shout out to him.
Okay.
So me and Jake, we were at ring ceremony on Sunday, and we were taking some pictures, and we go and talk to Jake's mom after, and she shows us the photos, and
they're of me, I hear.
Yes, they were of you. And I think a big reason for that was because she thought there were some similarities with the hair. So I guess our question was like, what's your relationship like with your barber?
My barber. Honestly, not very close with my barber. I think that my general hairstyle is pretty, it's pretty messy, not super kept up, so I don't need the barber to do wonders with the fade or anything like that. But no, it's flattering to get that Lancer reference. It's a brother for me, and it's awesome.
Yeah, Mrs. Lancer made a bit of a mistake there. She was sitting a bit far back. She got there a little late to the ceremony, but that's as you just said. For on my end also, that's a flattering compliment. I was nervous when she said that. When she said, "I thought this was you. I made a mistake. Who is this?" But then I see Aiden Greenfield. It's like it's not that bad.
I appreciate that, and I think one thing that separates Lancer and me is Lancer has those beautiful blue eyes that I don't have, and I was wearing sunglasses. So
okay, yeah, that's fair.
One other thing for Yossi to note on.
I'm flattered on that one. I want to move it along here. What we've been talking to some of your close friends, right? Just trying to get some story points for this interview. We want to go as in depth as possible, right?
100%.
One of the bigger things that was sort of a question mark was, you've been working with Khalil Jenkins, the football trainer, right? And getting reps in with him. Was he staying at your house for a part of time?
So that's a great question. So Khalil was a family friend to us, and there was a couple sketchy things that happened with Khalil. He's a lot younger than he might seem because he's so mature. He was only about 21, 22 at the time, trying to make it in LA. And a bunch of his roommates who he was sharing rent with moved out on him, and he couldn't afford that. And my parents are in the home building business. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay, I did not know.
So right next to the house that we live in, they're building a house with the intent to sell it. But initially, you have to buy the old house, and there's this whole process where you have to get permits from, the city. And so they couldn't break down the house. So essentially we just had a house. And yeah, Khalil lived in there for a while when he was trying to sort his stuff out. My parents kind of brought him in as a second son. And he started working for my parents after, which is in the direction that he's doing now. He's not football related anymore. He was working for Red Door Homes. That's kind of how he got his start to contracting, which is really what he wanted to do. So it was pretty cool for him to see that.
We introduced you as a family man. I think that, if anything, really shows that your family values that you have.
I appreciate that tape.
We saw Grandma and Grandpa at the game.
Every game.
What do they mean to you, Aiden?
I'm super close with my grandmother. She's getting up in there in age, and she's not gonna be able to travel out to watch college games. So I think she made a little bit of an oath to herself to come to every home game this year, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool to see.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to move it on to a new segment, This or That with Greenie. And before we get into that, I think everyone wants to know, how did the nickname Greenie arise?
Honestly, I think it came from my coach Bernard Redmond, my flag football coach at the Lawrence School. It was either Greenie or I can cover the whole Greenfield.
Ooh,
But that's
tough.
kind of long,
That
right?
is
so
very
I think
long.
my dad was called Greenie too. I think people with that type of name, it's kind of the go-to. I know that guy on ESPN is called.
Oh, yeah.
Greenie. Who is that guy?
The Jets fan.
The Jets fan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
so not the only one.
All right, let's move into This or That. Dylan, I'll let you take it away.
So yeah, this or that, we're just gonna ask you two things, and you're gonna say which one you like better.
Need an explanation.
Yeah,
though. Need some
Need
backstory.
some explanation too. So we're gonna go off with a classic for the first one. Just waffles or pancakes.
Probably a waffle guy. I think I like the consistency of the waffle a little bit better. Pancakes can be a little doughy, where you don't see that too often with the waffle.
Another thing we know about you are a big nut guy. So cashews or almonds?
Almonds for sure. Just more of a go-to, and you generally see a variety of spice that goes with the almond that you don't see with the cashew. At Blue Diamond, they do it pretty well over there.
I see you typically in the cafeteria grabbing those almonds,
100%.
just stocking up.
Yeah,
right?
with great flavors like smoked and salted.
I saw they have some spicy ones
Yeah,
up there.
ghost
now, too.
pepper.
Yeah, the ghost pepper.
I haven't tried
those.
those. No.
I was almost gonna buy them, but I was a little scared.
I have bought them actually. I just haven't had them. They're sitting in my house because I am a little scared to try them.
We should do a nut tasting.
Yeah, you make some really great points there. We've talked about potentially doing like a Hot One style show, maybe in the future in winter season. Would love to have you on there.
Oh, I'd love to.
Do some tasting there.
For sure.
All right, next up. You've played both positions, and you watch a lot of football. We like to call you a football junkie. Quarterback or wide receiver from the player standpoint?
From my standpoint?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have a big arm, so I'm never gonna make it as a quarterback. Past the high school level. I think my athleticism allows me to be a decent quarterback in high school, but receiver for sure. I think that's where I project better.
Is there like a wide receiver in particular that you like to take inspiration from?
For sure, I think Garrett Wilson,
that
underrated
pick.
receiver with great routes, and Calvin Ridley too.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
On the field aspects of Calvin Ridley, I'm assuming, not off the field.
Definitely on the field. Off the field, sketchy. I don't know what he does, but it's not something you should do.
All right, I've watched quite a few football games with you in my day. Are you an NFL or college football type of guy?
That's a good question. I think in terms of watching the actual game, I go college football. Go Blue. My brother went there as well, as
Yes,
you know,
sir.
Lancer.
Yeah.
But in terms of fantasy, nothing beats NFL Sundays. But college football for sure.
Okay.
Right. And now, this is a big question. I was lucky to share a class with you last year, AP US History, with Mr. Yarone.
Oof.
He's a great guy, great teacher. But I have to ask, Mr. Klein or Mr. Yarone?
I struggled in your own class, and you did for a little while, Sheehy. You kind of picked it up while I still remained slacked.
Whoa.
No, I mean, it was tough for Tate and I. We spent time studying together, and
Those first semester quizzes,
Oh,
I can't
brutal.
lie, they were tough.
I'm going to go Klein. I was talking to Klein today, and I think our relationship advanced to past what it was before because he knew my sister, who played basketball here and went and played basketball at Yale. And I think that when I told him I was her little brother, the light went off in his head, and I think we're a lot closer. And I also think Human Geo is a little bit more enjoyable for me as an athlete who doesn't love to spend a ton of time doing homework. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely feel you there.
Very reasonable.
All right, let's move on to our final segment of the day, fan mail with Greenie. We go ask the fans, some questions for the guy, and we're gonna ask him out here. Dylan, I'll let you take it away.
So our first question comes from KCR, and it is, how do you look so good while you're on the field?
I think, I really appreciate that, Casey. That's flattering. But I think the eye black is something that, can really enhance the look. I think makes you look tougher, just makes you look like a football player. I tend to go eye black if I can. And then the drip, obviously, I'm a big drip guy, big look good, feel good type of guy, play good. So, I think that the arm sleeve or the rolled up socks, whatever it is, that's a big deal to me.
You a glove or no glove guy when you're playing quarterback?
I'm a glove guy.
Okay,
I have
okay,
small,
okay.
I have super small hands, like really small. So I'm a glove guy. Just helps me grip the ball a bit better.
All right. Well, I'll take the next one here. We know that you do have a girlfriend, but we do have a message from not your girlfriend. How do you respond to female fans? Nyla S.
Oh, you know, I respond well. I think 100%. I'm in a happy relationship right now, and I think because our school is pretty small and tight knit, people kind of know that. So I think we're happy.
Yeah.
Not there's zero response to female fans because if I did respond, I would have to be talked to by her a little bit.
And on that same note, we have a question from a Noel K who's asking, are you cooking up anything special for homecoming this year?
So obviously yes, but a wrench was thrown in my plans because I was gonna do a Fanatic Fest ass. Obviously she's a prefect and she was probably gonna be, but I hear this year that the Fanatic Fest is which is unreal to me. I mean, like the 1 year where it would have been so great, can't do it anymore. So obviously we're gonna have to revamp and reconsider, but it has to be big for sure.
We thinking a sign, maybe
I don't know,
some
man.
Flowers
for sure a sign. Yeah, for sure a sign, but we'll probably do a little skit somehow with some of the boys, but we're figuring it out right now as we speak.
We were trying to set up some sort of Big Red Pod homecoming ask with you or her coming into the room, but we don't have any surprises today. There's no girlfriend popping out of the wall here, unfortunately.
No, yeah, she's in class right now. I think
she is indeed. Well, all right, Dylan. Next question here.
Our last question, something we've actually already touched on, but coming from Connor B, how do you have such a great relationship with your grandma?
Well, with my grandmother, Connie. I just spend so much time with her. Over the summer and winter break, growing up, I would always go down to her house. She lives by Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo. I don't know. She's just been there in my life. Just very close with her. Very supportive. She doesn't really know what she's talking about on the athletic side, but she's just a great grandmother. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Dylan, you have a pretty similar relationship with your grandma, no? That USC athletics bond?
Yes, I do love talking USC sports with my grandma. She's a big Caleb Williams fan. She's been going to the USC games since before I was born, just lifelong fan. She sometimes gives me a little bit of fantasy advice, similar to that
100%
Aiden and Chasen relationship. So, yeah.
Love that.
Shout out to all the grandmas listening to the Big Red Pod. We love all of you. Tate, I'll let you ask this final question since we're introducing this new segment here.
All right. We want to start a tradition on the pod. Our next guest is going to be Chloe Dolkart, senior volleyball player, and we want to give you the chance to ask her a question. So, what is it?
For sure. I think, the cool thing about Chloe and I is that we went to the Lawrence School together, where she was a volleyball player. So I guess my question to her would be, how did Coach Jenna McAvoy, or how did Coach Jenna McAvoy, kind of develop you as a volleyball player into the player you are now, and how important was that Lawrence experience for Harvard Westlake volleyball?
What a great question. Stay tuned for that episode with Chloe Dolkart. That's going to be a good one.
Banger.
Very excited.
Yeah. Well, Aiden, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us on the pod. Is there anything you want to say to the fans before we wrap up here?
I appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on. It was a great time. These are my guys, so I appreciate you.
Go follow him on all his socials. We'll link them down below. Go follow Big Red Mag on Twitter and Instagram. Go follow HW Media podcast coming out now on all podcast platforms from Spotify to Apple, wherever you find your podcast, it will be there. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Big Red Pod. Go Wolverines.